welcome to 22 Things I Learned in 22 Years. My birthday is in a month, actually a little bit less than a month. I will be turning 22. I was thinking I could jump on this trend concept. I feel like it was a trend years ago where you say the amount of things, the amount of years you're turning that you've learned in those years. That was a very difficult explanation, excuse me. And I already did this I think 2 years ago when I was turning 20 because I had a podcast with my friend. We did it on the podcast. So I listened to that episode to see what I was saying. And I have to say it was more, I guess, like practical in a sense, whereas now I feel like it's more emotional and like specific to me, obviously. And just a quick disclaimer, this is very subjective. It is subjective to me. I'm not saying that everyone should live like me because we learn from our own experiences. Because we all live a different and very unique life, we learn different things. So maybe this will just inspire you. It was also for me to reflect on these 22 years to kind of see where life is taking me, where I was before. And it's also very, very specific to my age right now. I feel like some of the things might be a bit different in the future. I think I'm going to mention it in the video later on. So let's dive into it. Lesson 1. People around you make you into who you are. I've recently, again, kind of realized that because being here on Erasmus, meeting so many people, hanging out with so many people, it makes you think about things, it makes you reflect on who you are and who they are and how it kind of influences each other. It was a specific moment where I wanted to go for a run for a long time. I haven't been in a year, and then people here just kept going for runs and being so happy about it and talking about it, and I was just like, okay, let's do it too. And so it's good to be mindful of who you have around you, because we really do adapt each other's habits, values, views on life. And I guess that's why if I don't really share someone's values and vision of life, I don't really become close friends with it. Not that I really think about it in depth, but it just, I feel like, naturally happens. Lesson 2. You are, or I am, the number one priority. This is a very tough and maybe even controversial thing because there is a very fine line between being selfish and prioritizing yourself. I've been trying to figure out where that line lies for a long time now. And I think I kind of get it, but it's still not perfect at all because it's also subjective to certain people and certain situations. But it's kind of like the rule on the plane. You always have to take care of yourself first to be able to take care of others. So try not to be a people pleaser, I guess. I kind of admire those people because I feel like usually they're very empathetic and they like to care for people. But a lot of the times I see them forget about themselves and then really struggle because they don't voice their concerns and needs. Like one of my closest friends used to struggle with that, and then now she's getting better, and she even feels better because she can tell people when she's not happy with something, when she needs something from others, because she always used to say, but I want them to do it for me without asking for that. And I was like, yes, but some people don't know what you need, and so you need to tell them. So I'm very proud of her for learning how to do that, I guess. Lesson number 3 is something that I've been experiencing so much these past couple of years, and that's you might not understand something until you personally go through it. For some reason, I can't think of any example right now. I think it comes out of the fact that we tend to judge people, maybe, if they share something they've been going through and we don't really understand it. Maybe we think, oh, why are they feeling like that? It's not as big of a deal. But then when you actually go through it yourself, you're like, oh, now I get where they were coming from. Actually, I figured out one example. When my friend went on Erasmus last year, and then she came home and she was having a really hard time, I was like, yeah, of course you are, because rationally I knew it, but I didn't know what it actually felt like. And now, being on Erasmus, I'm like, yes, I will know exactly what I will go through. I'm already afraid of going back home because I will be very sad about it. But even when I wasn't judging her at all and I was like, yeah, I get it, it makes sense, I still didn't realize how she really truly felt. Lesson number 4, time heals. Very simple, very true. very effective. The more I go through life and the more hardships I have to overcome, it always comes down to one thing, and that is that time heals. Sometimes it might be a week, sometimes it might be 6 months, and sometimes it might be a couple of years. And it is a challenging thing for me because sometimes I tend to be quite impatient, and when I'm in pain, when I'm suffering, the only thing that helps is time. But then you have to wait, but it's always true. It's always true. Lesson number 5 is that the one fundamental thing that affects everything is sleep. Nothing could define me more than how much sleep I get, because honestly, it's like a domino then. Like if I don't get enough sleep, then I'm not feeling good, I'm not feeling motivated, I don't do anything, then I feel bad about not doing anything. You know, it's like a vicious cycle. It really affects my mental health a lot. Like in the first couple of years of studying abroad in Spain, I didn't sleep well, and that affected everything in my life then. So I know that I really have to be cautious about this in my life, and it kind of makes me scared of when I become a mom and I have babies, because babies don't sleep and so then I'm not gonna sleep either. But as my really good friend says, that's a problem for future Christina. No, but all jokes aside here, it's also been kind of tough because we tend to go out a lot, we tend to go to sleep late. Then I'm trying to balance sleeping and also being social. But I think now my body just adjusted to going to sleep later. I still at least try to sleep between 8 and 9 hours a day, but it's pushed back. Like I go to bed later and I wake up late. Like in the summer, I used to wake up between 7 and 8, and now I wake up at like 9, 10, sometimes even 11. But you know, I'm young. I want to enjoy my life, take on all the opportunities I get, and maybe the next academic year I will get back into my normal routine. Number 6, I've learned to love my body. It's taking me a really long time because I am turning 22 and I've been struggling with it probably ever since I was like 12. So it's been at least a 10-year long journey, but I finally appreciate myself in whatever stage I am in. I still try to take care of my body really well, but it doesn't mean that I have to look like someone. I am better at not comparing myself to others and just being really grateful for everything that my body is doing for me. I've also learned to appreciate nature. I love nature so much. Whenever I feel down, whenever I feel weird, unmotivated, tired, sad, happy, I go outside, whether it's a park, whether it's a forest. It always recharges my aura. I don't know. It just makes me feel really good. I've also learned to be more spontaneous, because I used to be a person who has to have everything organized and planned out, and then if I stir away from the plan, it kind of pushes me off my tracks. I don't know if that's an expression that you use, but you know what I mean. But now, lately, I've just learned to go with the flow, say yes to everything that comes my way, because honestly, life is way more fun in that way. One example that always comes to my mind is when I traveled to Budapest with my friend. We met some other Czech people there and we clicked, we started hanging out, and we just postponed our going back home. We just like returned the tickets, bought another tickets, and then we just said yes to going to Malta with them for a trip, even though we just knew them for like 2 or 3 days. But because of all of that, we had such a great time. We have a bunch of new friends now, and we also traveled to a place that we haven't been before. Lesson number 9 is extremely important, and it ties to lesson number 2 of being the number 1 priority. You are the only person who you will always have in your life. Or in other words, the only person you will always have is yourself. I think it's extremely important to realize that and be aware of that, because you should build your own life no matter what other people think, what way you should build your life, who you should be, because whatever happens, you will always have yourself, but you might not have some friends in the future, some family members. I mean, in the ideal world, you would, but sometimes life doesn't work out the way we want it to. And so just don't neglect yourself and love yourself, I guess. Lesson number 10 also ties to the previous point. People drift or grow apart, and it's completely normal and it's totally okay. I had some really close friends, like I had one friend in middle school and high school, which I was really close with, and then we just grew apart because we were growing as people, as individual people, and we just didn't work well together anymore. But it's fine, because we go through life, we meet people, I think, for certain reasons, And maybe also you meet them in a specific time because that's what was supposed to happen and that's who you were meant to meet. But sometimes that doesn't have to last forever. Lesson number 11 is that everyone has a story to tell. That ties to so many things. It's like a very complex point, but why I thought of it is because, for one, we tend to judge people even though we don't know them. And the second thing is that you think you're suffering, that you're going through something and you're alone in it, but usually you're not. Like every single person on this planet is dealing with something, is going through something, has some sort of a background and history that you might not know about. Even if someone looks completely fine or happy, they could be going through something. So I'm trying not to judge people and give them space to talk, and I listen. Lesson number 12 is tied to my newly found spontaneity. Sometimes it's okay to let go and let loose. Lesson number 13 is something I've been struggling, I think, ever since I was a kid. And it's that I'm not responsible for other people's happiness, and also I can't force someone to change if they don't want to. This, I feel like, is the point that's interesting because it might change when I become a mom, because then obviously you will want the best for your kids and you'll try to provide them with everything you can and make them as happy as possible. Lesson number 14 is, if you're not happy, do something about it. I really don't like people who complain about certain things about their lives, about not being happy, but just really not doing anything about it. I am aware that some people aren't in a situation where they can afford it or just they don't have the options, but I feel like usually you do, and it doesn't have to be anything big. Just do something small that will make you smile in that day, because the life we live is our choice usually. Again, I know there are people in some situations they don't decide what their life is like, but if you do have the option, please use it. I saw this quote recently somewhere: if something excites you and scares you at the same time, go full force on it. There was like even a funny comment, I think it was a reel on Instagram, and it said, well, what if it's a man? Which made me laugh. But it is true, because I was so excited about like studying abroad, but I was also terrified, and I still did it, and it turned out to be a good decision. Lesson number 14 is I learned when to speak up and when to shut up. And take it as you want. I feel like you could implement it in various different situations, but it's a really tough thing to do. Lesson number 17 is something that's still very present in my life. And again, I think I heard this quote probably on Instagram or some social media: if a guy likes you, you know. If he doesn't, you'll get confused. I still don't know if it's 100% true, but I feel like it is from my own experiences, and it's really difficult to accept it. But even if it's maybe true in like 80-90% of the cases, the rest 10 and 20, even if he does like you and he doesn't give you attention, it's not worth it. I tried to chase a couple of people, I tried to fight for people, and if they just don't want it, they don't deserve it. Lesson number 18, don't sweep things under the carpet. I really try to deal with shit, with ships, like the relationships, friendships, family ships, because sooner or later the issues always come up, and it's better to talk about them early and resolve them than if it just like builds up and then it explodes. Lesson number 19 is also something I realized recently, and it is that I am losing attention. Like in the past, I've been able to read for hours and just sit still, enjoy the book, or focus on some project for a long time, and now I just can't do it. Like my attention span, it's so bad, and I'm trying to work on it. Lesson number 20, all emotions are important. I realized that if I don't go through the hard emotions and hard situations, I wouldn't like recognize and be able to appreciate the great situations and successes and the highs. So if there is something really difficult, I try not to complain about it and just run away from it, because like I said, all emotions are important and they help us recognize the other ones. Lesson number 21, hobbies are important. Some years ago, I was sitting at home, I had a lot of time. I think it might have been during COVID, and I was like, what am I gonna do with all of my time? And then I started thinking about what I enjoy, what I wanna put my time into, and I just really think that having hobbies is important, because otherwise we're just like wasting our time, which, I mean, I'm not that stressed about it. I'm not the type of person who says that like every minute of your life has to be useful for something. It has to have intention. But on the other hand, it's really nice to know what you enjoy, because it like doing hobbies also, I guess, relaxes you. So like if you work or if you're a student, you need some downtime, and I guess hobbies are what you do in your downtime. And lesson number 22, the last one: time flies incredibly fast. We will always look into the past. We will always want to be younger again. We will want to transport ourselves into the past, to the nice moments, I guess. And it's crazy because I feel like I just turned 16 or 18. Like, I remember it so vividly in my head. And now I'm turning 22. And I'm like, what's happening? Where did all the time go? Like COVID. COVID started 5 years ago at this point, which is insane to think about. Like, I could go on and on and on. I have so many examples. Like Erasmus, I've been here for 2 months, and it feels like, on one hand, it feels like I've been here longer. On the other hand, it feels like I've been here 2 days. And I think because of that, I just understand why parents and adults would always say, like, where did the time go? Like, when did these last 20 years go? It's so fast. Like, I want to be younger again. I always used to kind of judge them a little bit, and I'm like, yes, I get it. So these have been the lessons I learned in my 22 years of life. I'm interested to know if you agree with some of the things or if you really disagree with some of them, so you can let me know. And thank you for watching. Happy early birthday to me, I guess. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.